thank you for coming. I am Lydia Adams, and I am the guidance counselor for 11th and 12th grade. So you all probably know Mrs. Miller, and she's running our PowerPoint tonight, and she was your counselor for 9th and 10th grade. So now I'll be working with you primarily. But if you ever come to the guidance office and you don't see me, Ms. Miller can certainly always help you, and vice versa. We know pretty much all of the same things. So you can go to the next slide. All right, so in this meeting, we're going to talk about just the whole application process and just kind of an overview. If you want to ask specific things, or if you're even thinking, I don't even know what to ask, I don't know where to start, we can set up a meeting with your parents and with me, and we can go over all of your ideas, all of your thoughts, and then maybe give you some different ideas too. But just to kind of narrow it down, you really have to start thinking about what is it that you want out of your college experience. Obviously, you're going to get a degree. But beyond that, you have to think about, okay, I've been at SAC since pre-K. I've always been in a small environment. Would I be comfortable at a big public university? Would I be better suited at a small university? And those are things you kind of have to think through because you want to be successful. You want to be in your best learning environment. So if you go to a place that you haven't really put those thoughts into, then you're going to be maybe uncomfortable and not performing as well as you could. So I always tell our students, it's not selfish to think that way. It's not selfish to think, okay, I don't like the cold, I don't want to go there, or I really don't like how flat it is in that city. I would like somewhere where I can see trees. That's okay, because we want you to be well and performing well. So just some things to think about. Next slide. All right, so for this class, normally we do, and some of you guys may have been able to go your freshman year, maybe last year, but normally we do a big college fair that's for 9th through 12th grade, and it's just for our students, and we love getting to do that. Well, obviously this year, our college admissions professionals did not want to come on campus, and so we thought, well, let's still do an event to get at least our juniors thinking about what do I need to be prepared to do this year? So at SAC, we have about 90 to 100 per grade, and we really try to handhold your junior through these next 2 years when it comes to the college application process. So we will be writing our college essays together. We will be going over letters of recommendation together. Like I said, the junior family meetings, we are available to do that and help you with that. But I know that this task seems super daunting and overwhelming. So don't worry, I promise you, we will not let your child forget to turn something in. We will be inundating you with deadlines and when stuff is going to be coming up. So we'll keep you posted on all of that. A couple other things just to be thinking about. The SAT, ACT. You all have probably already discovered that some are getting canceled, and maybe you have even signed up for one and haven't been able to take it. We just, for the first time, offered the SAT on our campus to seniors last week, and it went well. So if tests continue to be canceled, we will offer one for our juniors only in the spring. Hopefully, you know, the testing centers will open back up, but if that's not the case, we do have plans for you to at least be able to get one score. Another couple of things to consider about that, if you are thinking, I'm a kid who really needs to have several scores, I'm going to need to take this and keep trying and maybe have 2 or 3 scores, I would encourage you to sign up at a testing center whose school district is open. So if you're looking at different public schools, you can take the SAT, or different colleges, you can sit and take the ACT or SAT. If that school district is not open, it's very likely they're going to cancel it. So maybe kind of look outside of town at some smaller towns, and that might that has worked for some of our seniors. And then also, we're going to keep you posted on everything we hear. But it's very likely for your student that these colleges may continue to be test optional. So this year, for the first year, almost every university has gone test optional for our seniors. So what that means is if the senior has a score that they're happy with, they can send it in. If they don't have to. And from what they have explained, it's not going to help or hurt you either way. Now, the caveat to that is obviously if you send a score in and it shows them, listen, maybe my GPA is average, but I did outstanding on the SAT or ACT, then that is going to show them a more complete picture in your application, file. But that's kind of what test optional means, and we can dive, specifically into that if you know a university you want to look into. I can help you figure that out. But we're just going to keep our eye on it and see if that is what will take place for your class as well. And then something else to consider, normally this time of year, we are pushing you guys to go on trips with your family. Obviously this year, some universities, you can do that. You've got to plan ahead. Some, like, I think I heard the other day, University of Texas is opening up some tours, but it's only, 2 per hour. So you've got to book it like, a month, 6 weeks in advance, whereas used to, they would do 50 kids an hour, 100 kids an hour. So start looking and seeing if your university will allow you to come on campus. If not, one of the handouts that we've provided to you are different virtual visits. Those are ones that we've gathered, but we can always help you find one. If you're thinking, my university's not on here, we can help you figure out how to meet with them. I was telling a family here that if you want to speak with someone from that college, almost all of them are doing Zoom calls right now. So if you want to sit down with your mom and dad and have a Zoom call with the rep from University of Alabama, they will do that. So normally where I'd be encouraging you to go on trips, I would just implore you to please start booking these virtual visits. They're not as, obviously robust, but we've got to get you exposed to different universities. When the world does open back up, try and visit as many as you can, as quick as you can, because you may think, oh, I grew up watching University of Texas football, I love it there, and you may step on campus and think, this is not for me, I don't feel comfortable here. So just keep that in your mind as well. And then next slide. Okay, Naviance. I think at the end of last year, at least some of you came in, you reset your password, all of that. If you're thinking, what's Naviance, or I haven't logged in, come into our office. We will sit down with you and we will show you exactly how to log in, what to do. This year, you're going to use Naviance for aptitude tests. So there's 6 or 7 different tests in there, and some of them are based purely on your interest. And then some are based more on your natural bent and your gifting. And so we can take those tests and go, okay, I know you say you want to be an artist, but you don't have any natural ability there. So maybe we could consider, something else. And so it will really help us to have those conversations, like I said, as a family, and to be thinking about where you would be successful in your career. Because you don't want to go to college and major in something that you're not going to end up enjoying. So that's what you're going to use it for this year. Next year, and really actually at the end of this year, this program will house all of your letters of recommendation, your counselor recs, school profile, transcripts. So all you have to do, let's say this summer you're able to schedule a last minute visit somewhere. All you have to do is log on to Naviance, add your school, and then we can just send your documents as soon as you apply there. So it's very instantly happens for you versus old school having to mail everything. So you'll get super familiar with Naviance. Okay, so admissions application. I know that you will not remember this in May, and that's okay. We are open in the summer, and I encourage, rising seniors all summer, come into the guidance office with your laptop and we'll go through this. But just so you can start thinking about it, our public universities in the state of Texas are on Apply Texas. Some of them are also on Common App. Common App is, I think, the most user-friendly, and it also has the most universities. There are some schools that then you will see on Coalition and QuestBridge, but those I will tell you are not super user friendly. And then if you are applying to a small Christian school or a small liberal arts university, a lot of times they're going to have you apply directly through their website. So you'll skip these web platforms altogether. But just so you can kind of know what they are, it is a online application that you can send it to multiple different schools. So with Apply Texas, let's say you fill out your A&M application first. After you complete that, it will give you an option, duplicate this application. It saves you time, and then it will flag anything that's school specific, so then you could fill out an application for University of Texas. On Common App, it's a bit more user-friendly. You fill out all of the questions, and then on the left-hand side, you will have a tab for every single university. So I always tell students, if possible, use Common App, because it's very easy to use. Your teachers can log in and be a recommender for you. We can log in if you want us to. And then it also ties perfectly with your Naviance account. So if you can, I would encourage you to use Common App. All right, so we kind of already touched on this, but just the timeline of events. As I mentioned, we are going to be helping you with all of the items that need to go into your application. So if you will think about, your application is going to be a literal file, be it digital or hard copy, depending on the university practices, but it's going to be a file with all of these different items that you have to get. So we're going to do a section in your English class this spring where we spend a couple weeks going over college essays, because they're totally different than any essay that we have asked you to write in school before. These essays can be uncomfortable because we're asking you to, number one, talk about yourself, and number two, to brag on yourself. And, you know, growing up in a Christian school, we've always taught you not to brag and to not talk about yourself. So we will kind of help you through that and how to do that appropriately and eloquently. But just so you can kind of be thinking about what you might want to write about, typically there's maybe 2 to 3 different essay topics that they will give you. And usually it's something about your identity, your family background, your culture, something like that. And then usually there's a couple other questions that are more like, if you could do anything, what would it be? What are your long-term goals? If you had a plane ticket to go anywhere, where would you go? So then there's some more questions that kind of have you think pretty far out. I would say most students choose to talk about just their 18 years of experience. So if you have anything unique to you, you know, start thinking about if you'd be comfortable writing about that. And if you think, well, I'm pretty, you know, run-of-the-mill, just like, you know, my friends, we have similar stories, then that's where we can come in and help you think about how to frame that and how to make it unique. Your admissions counselor at your university is going to be reading 50 to 100 essays a day. So you want them to remember yours. So just to kind of start thinking about that. And then, you know, we've mentioned the Naviance and the aptitude test, which we can start on that, you know, before the spring, but just come in and we can help you with that. Okay, so this summer, normally Apply Texas opens July 1st. This summer, we saw them open it up, but not all schools were ready to have their application open. So some schools did not open until August 1st. We will see what happens in the world, but I would encourage you to be ready by July 1st. Typically, all of the small schools are open then, even some are open before then. I mean, there are some Christian universities that will open spring of your junior year. So just be prepared to fill that out. I like to tell our students, block out a day in July that you're sitting down, like if A&M is your school that you want to apply to, that school is super competitive, and so that's another great thing to have in your application, that you applied as soon as it opened. So if that's a school, if University of Texas is one of your schools, I would be ready on July 1st. And then early decision versus early action. Again, this is something, students, that you might not remember, and that's totally okay. We will remind you. but you need to know that there is one that is binding. So early decision is binding. That means when you apply, you're saying, if I get into TCU, I will go here. Sometimes that has a financial implication to it. And when you apply early decision, they have your parent sign it and they have me as your counselor sign it. It's okay to do that, but just know the seriousness of it. So if you think, I'm the 6th generation to go to Texas Christian University, great, we know you're going there and you can do early decision. But if you're thinking, I don't know, I'd like to maybe consider some other ones, early action, you can find out just as early sometimes, but it's non-binding. And then I will just mention one caveat to this. So like Rice University, super competitive school here in Texas. They will tell you that if you do early decision, it increases your chances of admission by 10%. So there are some schools that it does matter to do that, and we can walk you through that. We can walk you through your specific schools. And then just to back up a little bit, something else that you might want to consider, you know, some schools, like here in the state of Texas, we have an interesting dilemma that most other states do not have. So our state schools are very, very difficult to be fully accepted into. Our smaller private universities are actually easier to get into. In other states, you usually see the opposite. So I'm really talking about Texas A&M and University of Texas, which a lot of our parents here went to. And you will find that those are very competitive. And so if that is your #1 school, that is awesome. We will do everything we can to help you get in there. And I will tell you, the admissions professionals at A&M and UT will do everything they can to help you get in there. But it might not be a bad idea to go ahead and have kind of that safety net school. One, we don't want you to just apply to a safe school just to do it. Apply to a school that you would still be happy to go to. And you know, these are hard conversations that we'll have throughout the year. And if there's not a school that you'd be happy to go to, then we would say don't do that. You know, at A&M and University of Texas, they give you different options. And other competitive schools do as well, but they have many different pathways to be fully admitted, even if it's not your freshman year. So just something to consider on that. Next slide. Okay, Common App typically always opens on August 1st. I hope that nothing changes this year. I really don't think it will. What we have seen, at least for our seniors this year, the application opened on time, but what they are doing, some schools are either extending it 1 month past December 1st, or they are stopping it traditionally at December 1st, but they're allowing students to send scores after that. So just as with everything else, we will keep you updated on that. And then fall, we will really start working on financial aid. We will start helping you figure out what is housing going to look like. What do I need to do there? You're going to have a bunch of different documents, and we'll help you figure out all that. But the big thing with financial aid, and we haven't gotten to October yet, but I'll dive in a little bit early. The FAFSA opens October 1st. So that is a government document. You do not have to fill it out. However, many universities will not award your merit-based aid. So scholarships that your student has earned because of their GPA, because of their test scores, they will not award it until you filled out the FAFSA. With state schools, you have a little bit more wiggle room. They cannot really require you to do it, but the private universities can. The reason they do that is because they don't want to over-award someone. So if someone filled out the FAFSA and they're getting the Pell Grant, or they have some state grant that's going to pay for school, they would not want to over-award them with scholarships. But just so you know, that is something that you're likely going to need to fill out. And then we will help your student look at different Bexar County scholarships. And then really when your student applies to their university, that's when they're being considered for like in-house scholarships. After they complete their application, they can then go back and apply for specific ones. So Like there are some universities that when you apply, you're considered for academic scholarships, but you can then go back and apply for like a service scholarship. You can say, hey, I have 1,000 service hours in high school and I've had this leadership position and blah, blah, blah. Then you're considered for that after you make application. Okay, next one. Okay, so we already kind of touched on the FAFSA. In the September, October, November timeline, that's when you're going to be doing all the extra little documents. So we want you to have applied to college, finished your applications by September 1st, really. I mean, I tell students, your senior year will be so much better if you will just sit down and apply before school starts. And like I said, we're open in the summer, so send in your student and we will help them. But in the fall, that's when, you know, they're going to be working on their FAFSA. That's when they're going to be hearing back from universities. And then if they think, okay, I know where I'm going, this is where I'm going, then we really encourage them, okay, join, you as parents, join their social media page. You as students join the student social media page. A lot of times that's how you can find out about different scholarships or different events that are going to be going on your university campus, or find your roommate. A lot of times on their student social media page, they will do like a roommate mixer, and you can find someone that you will actually get along with and that you have things in common with. So just, you know, have that in the back of your mind there. And then I mentioned the, well, I'll talk about the housing deposit. I get a lot of questions about that. If you know this is your number one or number two school, I would put a housing deposit in. Most housing deposits are refundable, and if you're going to go to Texas Tech, if you're going to go to Baylor, the best dorms fill up first. So if you know, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go there, you don't want to be in the dorm that has not been renovated since 1920 and is in not good condition. So I would just also be thinking, okay, fall, I'm going to be having to put my housing deposit down too. And then just what I was going to mention about the Bexar County scholarships. In our city, everything goes through a clearinghouse. So I'll go into your students' class, probably their Bible class, and talk to them about different Bexar County scholarships and things that they can apply for. But I will tell you the surest route of scholarship is always going to be through your university. Third-party scholarships are wonderful, but if you think about it, like the Coca-Cola scholarship is going to have 100,000 applications and they're going to pick one or two, versus your university, how they are awarding scholarship, it's a percentage off your tuition. It comes from a donor endowment, or it comes from an alumni fund. So it's a much more sure path of scholarships from your university. And then at the end of your senior year, if you have taken any dual credit, so if you're taking dual credit this year, if you're planning on taking dual credit next year, that's when you're going to request your official dual credit transcript be sent to your university. And if you guys have any specific questions about dual credit, I can help you with that as well. Even students who don't participate in our on-site dual credit courses, I really encourage you your senior year to do an online one. You know, there's really no reason why you shouldn't go into college with at least, you know, 3 to 6 hours. And on the dual credit side, when you're in high school, it's $200, $300. On the college side, depending where you go, it could be $2,000, $3,000. So even if you don't participate, like I said, in our dual credit classes taught by our teachers, think about taking an online one, and if that is of interest to you, I can help you sign up for that. It'll be middle of the spring, your junior year, so you need to kind of start thinking about that. And I'd probably encourage you to do an online psychology, fine art appreciation, something that's going to transfer everywhere. And almost every degree plan needs psychology, college algebra, art appreciation. Those are gen ed classes that you're going to need. Next slide. Okay, so this is what the FAFSA looks like. I like to put a picture on here because unfortunately there are fake websites out there. So it is, like I said, a government document, so it's .gov. If on accident you end up somewhere else, Do not put your personal information in there. It is based on your taxes, so it's very private. So just make sure this is what it looks like. Next slide. And then I kind of already mentioned this, but there's a lot of different ways to pay for college. So obviously, I said the surest route of scholarships or of financial opportunity will be through your university. And that's something we're going to hit really hard in fall of your senior year. And you've got to be coming in and asking questions and saying, okay, I applied to Auburn. What else can I do? And then we will sit down with you and go through all the scholarships that we know about at Auburn. But that happens in fall of your senior year. Obviously, you're going to fill out your FAFSA. The FAFSA is government-based aid, so it's grants and loans. You do not, when you get that information back from the FAFSA, you do not have to accept your loan. Sometimes it's nice to go ahead and fill out the FAFSA and know what loans you qualify for, because let's say your sophomore year or your junior year, you decide to study abroad. And that year, you do need to access a little bit of the loan you were approved for. You can log back in, update your information, and do that. Versus if you've never filled it out before, it does take quite some time. So I would encourage you to look into that. And then there's some other just different ideas on here. A lot of students will get a job on campus. You can do a work study, or you can just work on campus, and that can, pay for your fund money or your going out to eat money, or any, thing you might need to do. And then also like Teach for America is a program. There is AmeriCorps. That's another one that if you go to college and major in education or major in nursing, and then you go work in a low socioeconomic area, they will pay back your loans. So there's a lot of different options, and if you're thinking, I really need to kind of start figuring out how I'm going to pay for college, come in and we can talk through, some different ideas. Okay, so I mentioned the requesting dual credit transcripts. This was more just so you could have it on your page. And like I said, if you don't remember it, it's totally fine. We'll remind you next year. But we tried and put everything under parent links. I know they've redone our website recently, but if you go under parent links, there's a section on there for guidance. Obviously, you're going to find a ton of different forms on there, and one of them is how to request your dual credit transcripts. And then this is something that I am certainly no expert on, but I did want to mention it to you so that you could begin talking to experts about this. Maybe reach out to your attorney or a family friend, someone who would know about this. But in college, your student is going to need a medical power of attorney and HIPAA authorization, so they'll be 18. So if something happens to them and they are in the hospital or they are at the doctor, you cannot talk to their doctor unless they have done this. So if they go out of state and if they become ill, you want to be able to speak with their doctor, while you're jumping on a flight to get there. So just something to be thinking about before that. And then FERPA. You're going to see this, students, you're going to see this on every single college application. When you fill it out in high school, what the FERPA means is that you are giving me permission to send your private educational documents. So you're saying, I know that my school is going to send my transcript, okay? The FERPA in college, that's what you and your family have to decide together, because it essentially means if your parents will be allowed to see your grades. So my parents said, we're paying for your school, so yes, we will be seeing your grades. And I said, okay, sounds good. But that's something that you can discuss as a family, because again, your child will be 18. And so if you do not do the FERPA correctly, then you could call your child's advisor and they'll say, yeah, I can't tell you anything. So that's just something also to be aware of. Next slide. Oh, and these are just great pictures. So that is kind of, like I said, the high point. I will tell you, normally, as you can see here, we are taking trips out of our office to go to different colleges. We are doing, we're having university professionals on campus. We are having our college fair. This year, so far, everything has been virtual, as you know. I do want to mention this, we will be having a virtual college fair on November 5th. I'm going to send you the login information for that, how to do it. They're using a specific platform. This college fair is only open to Christian schools. So yes, it is going to include a few other high schools, but it is only the San Antonio Christian schools. And how it's going to work, it's going to be, a web platform. You log in and there's going to just be all of these icons of all the schools. You will go through, find the one you want to do, and then each one is 30 minutes. So you can see the presentation, talk to a representative, and I think it'll be open for 2 to 3 hours for the live version. And then of course it'll be open before and after, weeks before and weeks after, where you can go back and look at least the recorded presentation. And then pretty much every lunch period, we have admissions professionals that are doing Zoom calls. We have a tablet up and running in our office. If your student is interested in one of the universities, just please send them in during lunch and we'll sit with them and do the Zoom call. I know it's not what we would usually do, but we really, really want your student to start being exposed to all of this, because during those presentations, they are not just saying, oh, Baylor's the best, come here, I love it here. They are going into a deep dive of here's our top 3 majors, here's where our notable alumni have gone on, here's the Fortune 500 companies our kids have gone on to work at. So that can kind of plant ideas in your student's head of like, wait a second, okay, yes, I would like to work there. I didn't realize that you could do that skill set at that place of employment. So I really encourage you, we send that out every week, what universities are going to be coming, and then it's posted on the bulletin board outside of our office as well. And then as soon as we get any information and as soon as we're hearing things are opening up, we're just going to keep alerting you and keep letting you know. And then if you have any questions, please email us, ladams@sachristian.org. I think it's on your sheet. And then you're welcome, to come in as well and do a family meeting. Do we have any questions for the group? I'm happy to answer questions afterwards, but if there's any questions that would benefit everyone, I can answer. Yes?
If we apply July 1st, what's the timeline that you normally hear back?
Yes. Okay, great question. So she said, if you apply July 1st, when do you hear back? And I meant to mention that, so thank you. So if it is a smaller university, like let's say Abilene Christian University, that's a super popular school for our kids to go to. You will hear back very quickly. It's a small school and they are able to go through those applications so fast. You could hear back in a month. You could hear back at the start of your senior year. Now, a huge state school like University of Texas, they first notify the students who are automatically accepted. So UT, it's top 6%, A&M, it's top 10%. Every state school in Texas is top 10% except for UT. They will notify those kids first. Then after that, they go through holistic review. So that's why it's important to apply early, because if you have a good GPA and good test scores and you applied early, you're one of the first ones on the stack that they can go, okay, yeah, she's in. Versus if you apply later and you had great grades and great test scores, but maybe they already admitted a lot more students in front of you who had lesser test scores, then you might be waitlisted or something. So for those schools, it can be as late as March 1st, which is so late, but it can be as early as Thanksgiving. So for the automatic acceptances, our kids heard back October 1st. For top 10%, they heard back October 1st. But then they spend the next 2 months trying to get everyone they can accepted. And then the absolute latest you'll hear is March 1st. So that's why I just encourage you to please apply like as soon as you can. And hopefully you don't have to wait, because then you're stressed out your whole senior year. You're just waiting to hear back. So. Anybody else? Yes.
The platforms that we use to apply, that Connect and the others, so on July 1st or August 1st when they open, is it going to be overloaded? Is everyone going to jump on, and then we have with heavy experience?
Sure.
Before?
It can be. I definitely have heard of students saying like, oh, it was slow when I first logged on. You know, last year, I heard of students, they were on vacation and they stayed up till midnight to log on. And I think a lot of kids do that. You know, it was probably a bit slow. I've never heard of anything glitching and anybody losing anything. I mean, these have been around for quite some time, but just also, it's okay. If it's August 2nd, if it's August 3rd, it's okay. You know, it's not going to make or break it if it's 1 or 2 days later, but I just would not wait, you know, too long to do it. Anybody else? Yes?
What's the best time to start taking the aptitude test?
Yeah, so I would say now. So I do say, depending on the gender of your student, male students' brains do mature a bit later. So if your student is old for their grade, young for the grade, you know, you can take that into account. But I do encourage you to consider that because we want the results to be super accurate. So a lot of times with our male students, I tell them to wait until spring. With our female students, you know, you can go ahead and start, again, depending if you're like old or young for your grade. And then just to mention on the aptitude testing as well, we have those 6 or 7 free aptitude tests that as being a student at Saks, you can take those. If after you look at those, you're like, I really need more information. Like this is not conclusive. We partner with the Berkman assessment. They are wonderful. They will come on campus and test you. It's like a whole day of testing. And it's not just you're bubbling stuff in, like how do you feel about blue versus green. They are, you know, they will lay out pencils on the table and they'll say, okay, pick those up and put them over here. And they're watching how you do it. One of my favorite stories from the Berkman assessment, one of our students wanted to be a kindergarten or first grade teacher, and they did that exercise, and at the end of it, they said, you're going to hate being an elementary teacher. You don't have the patience and the tactile skills you need to help 5 and 6-year-olds. And so they're looking at all kinds of things. So the Berkman is more extensive, but it is something that you would pay for. So we encourage you to do our stuff first because it's free to you, and then if you think you need more, we can help you set up the Berkman assessment.
What is the Berkman one?
You know, I think it's about 800. And there are some other companies that are local that are less, and we have information on those too if you want to come and pick it up. Hey, yes.
As far as getting offers from schools, was not mentioned, you know, they were like, didn't like you go there. At what point do you find that out? When they accept you, or is that?
Okay, so the question was when you hear back on scholarships. It depends on the university. So, like, great example, Abilene Christian University. Our students get their acceptance letter, and in the acceptance letter, it says, and we're awarding you the presidential scholarship, and it's $40,000 for 4 years. Other universities, you get your acceptance letter, and then you're going to get subsequent email notifications, like, hey, you qualified, go to the next step. Or, hey, you've been awarded this one, also you should apply for this one. And I will tell you, one of the best things you can do when you go tour your university, make an appointment to meet with the financial aid officer. They are some of the most underutilized people on campus. They know about super obscure scholarships. So like private universities, it can be a sweet senior adult lady that donated a ton of money but said it has to be a boy from San Antonio who is majoring in engineering and likes cats. I mean, it can be anything. They can't do that at public universities, but if you're looking at private universities, they have donor-funded scholarships that they're not going to put on their website because, you know, who would qualify for it if it's so obscure. So make sure to go meet with the financial aid office as you get like further along in the process. Anybody else? Oh, yes.
You said Texas versus
Apply Texas what?
Opens the 1st of July.
Yes, historically, Apply Texas opens the 1st of July. This year, it opened, but there were some universities who weren't ready, and so their application got loaded into the platform a couple weeks later. Hopefully this year, whatever happens, at least people are used to working from home, so hopefully it's going to be July 1st and August 1st. Did I see a question? Oh, yeah.
Paul, do you recommend applying to college directly as well, or just through?
So I say, when possible, use Common App. Common App is the most user-friendly, and it connects seamlessly with Naviance, which is what your student will use to send transcripts. Apply Texas when you have to, and then when I would apply directly on the website, some universities, that's all they offer. But if it's a small university, like Dallas Baptist University, Abilene Christian University, typically if you apply on the website, it is the smallest, shortest application. It's a few questions, a short answer, and you're done. Versus if you do it on Common App, it's the whole huge thing. So if it is available on the website and it's shorter, you can definitely do that, but I would use Common App for everything else. Yes.
You said A&M and UT were Apply Texas. But
Yes.
what is Common App?
Common App, okay, so A&M and UT are on Apply Texas. UT this year, actually, I believe, is also on Common App. Common App is essentially everybody else. So Baylor, they're in Texas, but they're private, they're on there. And then out-of-state schools, Auburn, they're out of state, but they're on Common App. Common App has the majority of the schools, but our big state schools, I think, just like to be on Apply Texas, I guess. So anyway, but most schools are on Common App. But like, if your student is only applying to UT and A&M, then I would only use Apply Texas. And we can, like I said, we'll sit down with you and help you kind of game plan that. Because you may think, oh gosh, I've got to use all these different things, but we may be able to sit down and go, oh no, just apply on their website and everything else can be Apply Texas, to kind of simplify it.
When do you send your scores, your SAT scores, into the schools? Like, we're taking the test in November and it asked me what schools, and I didn't choose anything because I want to see what they are first. But let's say you're happy with your scores. When do you send that in? Do you wait till you apply, or you do it when you're happy?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when to send SAT and ACT scores? You can, when your student goes to take the SAT, you can go ahead and send your scores. They're free to send if you do it that way. Once you take the test and they are uploaded into your portal, into College Board, you then have 9 days to still send them for free. So let's say you get them back and you're like, whoa, these are awesome, let's send them. As a rule of thumb, I like for students to apply first. You don't have to, but if you are applying to a large university and they get your test scores now, there's no guarantee they're still going to have them in August. They should, but they're getting 40,000 scores every month. And so it's no guarantee. So I like for your student to apply first, because then they can connect it to their social security number, they can connect it to their student ID number, and then it should all be right there. The other thing is on College Board, like if your student takes 3 different tests, and one of them you're like, we do not want to send that anywhere. You do not have to. You can go in and pick the specific like session that they sat for. But something else to keep in mind is that some universities super score and some do not. So some are just going to take your raw score as is and say, okay, you made a 1200, that's what your score is. Like Baylor, they super score. So they're going to say, well, you made a 1200 in August and you made a 1300 in July. We're going to take the best English and the best math. And then it could give you an even better score than 1300. And super scoring is super important for scholarships. So if you're thinking like, oh gosh, we don't want to send that score, but maybe they did really, really well on one section, I would still send it, at least for scholarship purposes. Awesome. Well, I'll stick around to answer any like personal specific questions. And then just a reminder, I promise you, we will walk through this the whole year as a class together. So I know it's super overwhelming, like, I have to do all this stuff, but I promise you, we're gonna do it one step at a time. And then, if you want to come in and do a family meeting, please just, reach out, and, we're super happy to do those. Thank you.